So for most of my 25 years in education, I've talked about the importance of early childhood experiences as the foundation for all learning. Those of you who probably know me over those 25 years would say, not just talked about, but David's perhaps gone on and on and on in this conversation, as I feel it's a passionate and important critical step. During these years, I would say that I'm pleased with the amount of services that have been provided, and I'm equally pleased with the conversations, for instance, being here today, and that are going on all over our country around the importance of early childhood education. While I'm pleased, I see that there's opportunity that is needed. When I talk about opportunity, this is my version of what I call a healthy and prosperous circle of a healthy life. A life that starts out with a child being born into a family that has the knowledge of developmental appropriate practices and an interest in ensuring that the child is cared for, that they're able to grow up in a supportive and engaged community along with their family, that they're able to begin school with those developmental assets that they need, that they're able to thrive and be engaged and excited about their learning through play and all of the things that we know are critical, that they're able to graduate and go on to college or a vocational experience of their choice, that they're able to become employed and live in that same community perhaps and thrive and stay connected to their community, and obviously go off and perhaps enter into a relationship and have children themselves. And thus the circle goes around. And it's what we all, I believe, thrive for and want. So wanting this as a desired goal, I think it's important for us to understand the brain science that surrounds that. And again, I'm likely talking to many folks that understand this. But when we think about brain development, it's important for us to understand these stages of development. We know that the most rapid time of brain development happens between birth and 3. And it is during these phases that the acquisition of language, the sensory pathways are being connected between vision and sound. It's a time when we know about behavior regulation, the importance of mindfulness and play, the importance of higher cognitive functions and numeracy are all critical pathways that are happening in this particular area. These are all obviously needed. They don't necessarily happen in this exact pattern. However, they're needed and they're important to be stepping stones of one another for a successful upbringing. Given this confirmed research, we can certainly conclude that every interaction between a child is critical to that successful pathway. We know that when children are in supportive and caring families, their likelihood of a positive path is much more likely. We know that when toxic stress is around them, whether it's malnutrition, whether it's other forms of neglect, either physical, emotional, if there's caregiver substance abuse or mental illness, if there's exposure to violence or economic hardship, we know that that is further jeopardized. And so, while I'm happy with the services and the ideas that we're providing, I'm concerned and have an idea and a want to be more proactive with some of our work. We know that for this to occur, I believe there's an opportunity to connect with a caregiver before the birth or adoption of their child. And what I often refer to as a pre-birth maternal coach might be the title. Perhaps there might be a more appropriate term. But I believe that this individual would first create a trusting relationship with the caregiver. They would be able to share information about the stages that we just talked about in a logical and appropriate way. They would be able to share critical information that may also be of question for the caregiver as well. I see that this would happen during the time frame between perhaps the prenatal well check visits that happen, perhaps half of the 22 prenatal visits that would happen prior to the appointment, typically, capitalizing on that opportunity as a very proactive measure. This would not stop. It would obviously continue this relationship. Other information could be provided, information about fuel assistance, food assistance, information about childcare opportunities, answering all kinds of questions related to health. Currently, what we do is we often provide the support after the delivery of the child, where moms and caregivers and fathers are most protected, paternally, around not wanting to gain access to their children. It's not the way in which we know is most beneficial to create positive relationships. This next slide obviously doesn't go back far enough for me, but it shows that the dollars spent on the early end are the highest rate of return. We know that currently what happens is children enter our system at age 5, typically lacking the foundational skills needed. We know that it's right for us to provide those services, but it's an ever-increasing amount. As a result of them lacking these foundational skills, we know that children are far more likely to develop problems and unsuccessful paths. We know that 25% of our children are more likely to not continue with school. We know that 60% are likely to not go on to college. We know that 70% are more likely to be arrested for a violent crime. So the point here is that the way in which we deploy resources are diminishing in direct opposition of what we know is most appropriate. I remain excited about the conversation and the work that we're doing. But it's my hope that we continue those resources that are needed and even improve those to help make sure that kids are successful that are in trouble, while also at the same time providing proactive resources at the beginning. It is my belief if we do that, we start at the beginning, we are most successful for kids to grow up in a successful and happy world. Thank you.